Biggest ambition in life?
It's a bit weird, really. It's a double-edged sword. Ultimate freedom. If you're a coach or mentor, you have to give everything to the person that's paying you. I hate it when people hold stuff back. It's like, if someone's paying you for your information and your time, anything they ask you, you have to give them all of it. We don't have the luxury to not put effort in. I'm going to continually put effort in, and I keep showing up on the days I don't want to show up. It's okay to fail. If you lose, there is value in it. Now, you just learned a lesson of not the way not to do it. Some of the naughty kids, like, try and motivate them. You don't have to be like this. You've got talent. What you just said, sorry to cut you off, but I have to address this, right?
So what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Visionation Success Stories podcast. My guest today, a very special guest, is me, Dee Ludlow. How are you, bro?
I'm good, man. Finally got to get this done.
Yeah, finally, man. It's been coming around for a while, but
Yeah.
we're getting it done. So, tell me, what's your biggest ambition in life?
Probably just ultimate freedom. So, it's a bit weird, really. It's a double-edged sword, because part of me wants ultimate freedom to just be able to just, turn my phone off and do nothing. But then at the same time, I'm quite ambitious in business, so I'm still trying to figure it out, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think there'll be a point where you are able to completely turn your phone off, or do you have moments like that as it is right now?
Yeah. So if I have family time, then I'll just
Yeah.
switch off. But I've got this ambition, really, which probably, good answer to your question. I want to be able to take a year off, turn my phone off, and just travel the world. I want to go and see, all of South America, then just certain parts of the world that really interest me. I want to be able to turn my phone off and not have any worries or stress about anything. So that's something I want to do.
It's one of those things, right? When you chasing a goal, chasing a dream, but it's those milestones you reach, but you carry on going. Like there's no end to it, really.
Yeah.
But unless you see an end to it, but it keeps going, and one thing happens, and for you, it's like your work is your passion, right? So it's not like you're doing anything that's like mundane or anything.
No.
So yeah, in terms of that, so you want to travel, you want to go abroad, is it just be away for a bit and then come back to it? So would you say if you did that, then you come back and start working again?
Yeah. I don't think I could ever just not work. Plus, I think it's good for people to keep working. I think it keeps your mind working. When I see people enter the later stage of their life, the ones that are still working, the ones that still go to the gym, still active, tend to usually live longer. So I think it's important to keep your brain working. I don't think I'll ever switch off because I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So is that one of your things as well, where you said you want to enjoy family time is quite important to you? Because there's obviously each to their own. Some people focus, it's their priorities, right? Some people might be more invested in the business than in their family, or because it's hard to, of course, balance it. But for example, like yourself, you can take your wife and kids with you wherever you're going.
Yeah.
So that's a benefit. But do you feel like it's more balanced in the business side, or in the relationship and the kids and stuff?
I don't really search for balance personally. I just like today, luckily enough, I get to stay in one of yours and Adam's apartments in this amazing building, and the family came with me. So if I travel, wherever I go, I try and take them with me, providing I can, because of school and stuff. So I don't really try and look for balance and focus on balance. I just try and, do whatever we need to do. And cause I feel like as soon as you label something, then it just takes your time, it takes your energy. I'm just like, look, let's just get it, just get on with it. If I felt at one stage like one of the kids or Shara or something was like, look, we haven't seen you much, blah blah blah, or they raised a concern, then that's when I'd look at it. I tend to just, let's just get on with it, and then I don't want to cause a problem if there isn't a problem already. So yeah,
it makes sense. I guess it's like one of those things where it's like, it's not really linear. There's no given rule for how it should be. It's just whatever's best for you, right? Whatever works for you, whatever works best. It's different for everyone.
Yeah. I think it's the same as in business, though. I see people have meetings just to have meetings. I literally hate meetings, right?
Yeah.
I like meetings when we're we've identified a problem before the meeting, and we're using the meeting as a solution. So everyone that comes together in that meeting environment is there to solve a problem, not to identify new problems. If you identify a problem, I think that let's look at all the reasons why it's a problem first, then we'll have a meeting to solve it. When I see people have meetings and have further meetings to talk about the things that they spoke about in the last meeting, it's just like nothing gets done. So yeah, same thing. I think that until you start like feel like you're running into a problem or there's a problem arises, yeah, I think you just keep moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's about setting the clear agendas, right? Because I'm assuming you do have a lot of meetings though, but your meetings are with the agenda. How many meetings do you say you have in a week?
Now I try to have like minimal, honestly. Yeah. I have like one weekly meeting with my team, which is important because we're talking about the things that have happened in the week and how we're going to move them forward next week. Everyone's on the same page though. You know, those meetings could last 10 minutes, they could last 2 hours. Yeah. I don't like this whole, let's have a 1 hour meeting. If you set a time frame for a meeting for 1 hour, you're going to be there for an hour, whether it takes 10 minutes or 1 hour. So yeah, I have like one official meeting a week, and then if something comes up in one of the businesses, then I'll go and tackle it. But
yeah, like you said, your team, right? So let's talk a bit about your businesses. So what's your main focus at the moment that you're focusing on?
So the main focus is building a group of businesses. So this has gone off in a few different tangents because initially we was looking at mainly the construction sector, which we're still building in, and then a few other opportunities arise in other areas. I'm definitely one who I speak on trying not to chase too many shiny objects, because there's a picture up on my dad's wall when I was a kid, and it's a picture of a rabbit or two rabbits, and it said if you chase two rabbits, both will escape. So I've been very focused on maintaining the focus on one thing, but a few opportunities have come up, and we've managed to partner with some pretty good operating partners in those sectors. So the core focus initially is to build, grow through acquisition, and regardless of which sector we're focused on, with eventually to get it to a stage where it's very systemized and there's still room for more growth, and then we look to exit. That's like the core focus at the moment.
Okay, so that's the mergers and acquisitions, right?
Yeah.
Because I've had Mike on here before as well, Eddie as well, so they've spoken about it, but we've got the mega man here today. So you can give us the full insights, So you said you started with the construction. Was that just the construction field, was it? Industry?
It was in plumbing initially. Okay. Reason being was, one, I was doing quite a few property refurbs at the time, and an opportunity came up. A friend of mine had like a nationwide contract that he was really struggling to service. They was just throwing work at him. So I seen an opportunity and thought, right, if we go and buy a small plumbing firm that has engineers that are willing to travel, then maybe we can service this contract better, because the margins were really good on that specific contract. So we kind of did that. We ended up, we didn't stop there. It was very hard to integrate all together, but this in COVID time, so a lot of the businesses in COVID that we was buying, they was pretty much going to fold or looking for a way out anyway. A few of them are taking like bounce back loans on, etc. So I was like, I don't really care about their core business and what they have at the moment. I cared if they had engineers that were willing to travel nationwide. And in that period of time, when everything opened back up in construction, people did want to go and earn some money. But what was very hard was the different culture in the different businesses and trying to bring those all together. So that's why we started in construction. And then from there, like you said, you had Mike on. So I was working with Mike. He was also looking at construction, but he was looking at like scaffolding and something else as well. And then in the end, it just made sense. I was like, look, he's asking me to partner on him with deals. And as you probably know, he's got like a lead gen method, and he put this system together that really amplified my deal flow as well. So it just made sense to sort of pull him into 5D, and we started working together.
Yeah. So is that where it's reaching out to the businesses and getting sending those emails out and stuff like that? Is it that kind of thing, the lead gen on his side?
Yeah. So I was sending a lot of letters out initially, and I was doing some email lead gen. But he has just got away with sort of back-end systems, and he built something that was incredible. And we went from taking probably a call every 2 or 3 days of a seller from our outreach to we had 3 of us full-time taking calls we had to bring someone else in from outside to take the initial discovery calls to sellers because it just blew up. So yeah, that helped a lot.
Yeah. So you mentioned 5D. So is that your company for the emerging acquisitions,
Yes,
or is it a couple of other things in that as well?
So 5D is in this 5D. This is the 5D program, which is the mastermind, which is like a business buying mastermind, and then 5D Capital Partners is our acquisition business, and one of our business partners in the States, me and Mike are here, and then team is scattered around. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, I've asked this question before as well to Mike and Teddy, and I've understand M&A a little bit, but let's say there was someone, so you mentor quite a few people on it as well, and you have before. So let's say someone that's watching this podcast and they're looking to get into this, and what's the first few steps they could do?
First of all, I think to look at your initial skill set, because if you already have a skill set, for instance, technically you're in hospitality, right? Mm-hmm. So you're in property, but hospitality as well. So with your skill set, you're clearly good at managing teams, systems, working off systems, and also customer service, because all those things fall under that umbrella. So first of all, if I was yourself, I'd be like, well, what can I transfer my skill set into a sector? Maybe you want to buy something in this sector. So maybe, for instance, with service departments, you'd be like, well, I may as well go and buy a commercial cleaning company that already has contracts with other buildings, and then we can maybe bring that in here and reduce our costs instead of using the one that you use. I think you got your own, but you get my point. Or maybe some sort of property maintenance, because again, you have stuff that may go wrong in some of the apartments. So I'll look at your initial skill set first and try and work off that. Some people hate the thing that they already do, but even then, regardless of what it is you go and buy and what you choose, whichever sector you choose, you're going to have days where you don't want to turn up anyway. So I wouldn't neglect your current skill set. I would use it to your advantage, because the prime goal here is not for you to go and be the owner operator in a business and go and work in the business every day. Some people may want to, but our goal isn't to do that. Our goal is to find something that has good management structure, already EBITDA positive, and already has a lot of growth, but also a lot of history behind it. So realistically, your skill set can actually help if you understand the sector. Now, when you're taking calls, you're going to learn it very quickly anyway. Of course, you can't get that tribal knowledge of the sector that people have had for working in it for 20 years, but you will learn quick. So to start with, I would say look at your initial skill set. Then from there, think about your criteria. So for instance, if someone's earning, say, I don't know, 50 grand a year in their current job, it's probably pointless and you're going to buy something around the same profit, because yes, you get now work for yourself, so you're earning the same money and you have some of the perks of the business, but it depends what your risk appetite is. Because if you're someone that is very young, maybe someone like yourself that sees something and thought, well, to replace my salary and go and do this, I'm happy to take the risk, go and work over there. It's got 30 years of history, so the risk actually isn't that big. I want to try something new and grow it, then I would say yes. But if you have like a really good secure job and you care about security, then if you're earning 50 grand a year, I'll be looking at something 100, 150, 200k a year profit. So it actually makes sense for you to make that transition and give it more time. So criteria is a big thing. And if you do want to operate the company, fine. If you don't, then again, you do have to start to look at what infrastructure the business has, but also what value you can bring to it. So this would probably be beneficial for people listening. So I always use like Amazon as a good example. So if you can try and digitize the process, and in most traditional businesses, they lack systems and they lack tech integration, right? So if you think about Amazon, the second you order off Amazon, you get email. About 20 minutes later, you get another email. Then it tells you when it's been dispatched. Then it tells you when it's on the way. Then it tells you what time it's going to be delivered. Then it tells you when it has been delivered after it's in your hands. And then half hour later, it tells you how was your delivery. Then the day after, it starts showing you other things you may like. Because if you didn't have all those emails, you ask yourself, would you moan to see where it is? Because when you order off other people's websites, they may not have that same process that Amazon have, where that customer journey and experience is so good that they're keeping you informed all across the whole path of the whole journey of it being delivered. You never have to ask. When does anyone listen to this? When have you ever had to ask where your Amazon parcel is at any time? Yeah. Because they're so good at that process, whereas some aren't. So there's things that, of course, there's a lot that goes into it, but if you can integrate some sort of tech, and there's actually a fact that the businesses that integrate some sort of technology typically do 2 times the revenue of other businesses. So when you start to think about the integration of tech and just basic automation, you don't need to be a computer scientist to integrate some of this tech. You'll be surprised on some of these traditional businesses that have been going for 30 years, 40 years, even 20 years. These people are just doing things the way they've always done them because they're in routine. So if you can come in and add something, just some Zapier zaps, you just zap some things in, put some email sequences in place, just to like amplify the customer journey, because that's the main part, right? A lot of people think our customers are happy because they've never complained. It's like, that's great, but can we improve the process even more? Can we, they may not have complained, but are they telling their friends down the local pub or their local football team, So I think it's important to, if you can integrate the tech, it's important not to do it too quickly to sort of damage culture. But I think that when you are looking at criteria and starting out is, number one, look at your current skill set. Number two, look at what sector that, maybe you're passionate about or maybe you're looking at. And then number three is you need to get the knowledge on it as quick as possible. I don't think you need to be an absolute wizard at it. I think that you need to know the base terminology. And once you understand that and you understand how to position yourself as a buyer to a seller to overcome any, because they're going to look for credibility, to overcome any of those credibility objections, I think that then just get on the phone, get experience. If you're worried that you're going to damage the sector that you're looking at, then go and pick one that you don't care about. Go and get all the bad calls out the way in that sector. And I think most people, if you have a good initial pitch and when you speak to the seller, I think you'll be surprised on how, not easy, but yeah, pretty much how easy those first discovery calls are.
Yeah. What's usually like the time to acquire a business, or roughly? Or is it where it varies quite a lot?
Yeah, so I get asked this a lot. I think it's hard because we've had people that have sent out their first 10 letters and they've acquired a business. And then I've had others that have sent out 10,000 emails and they've been close, but they're still, putting the work in. So it is very hard. I think that it's a numbers game and it's time, right? If you can get your deal flow up and you get the volume up and you're willing to put the work in, then of course you got more of a chance, right? Same as anything. If you're going to do it part-time, then you may get lucky. But I think that if you can really focus on it, I would give yourself like a 3 to 6 month run if you really hit this hard. And yeah, unless something crazy happens, I'd be surprised if you didn't find something that,
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of if you do start to get through the door with the business, how long would it take to then acquire it and then make some changes kind of thing?
So I think if the seller's really motivated, they have a good team as well, because they're going through the due diligence process. If their legal team is very slow, or they use their the local solicitor that's a friend of the family that isn't skilled in M&A, or they've never been involved in a business transaction, then that can take a bit longer, because we've had it before where we've sent over heads of terms and anyone can read a heads of terms. It's just base terms. There's a few clauses that are legally binding. Everything else is pretty much wishy-washy and just jargon. And we've had people take 2 or 3 weeks to review a heads of terms, which is crazy, I think. So if everything's in sync, they're motivated and they want to get it done, our team on our side, they can get most of the due diligence done in 3 to 6 weeks max. But it all depends on the other side.
And so like you said, if someone's working a 50k job and then it doesn't make much sense for them to go and go into a business where they're making 50k profit. So obviously you're advocate for M&A. So in terms of that, what would you get the benefits of doing a startup? If someone was on 50k, they want to do a business, but then obviously if you want to do a startup business, then like you've started the business, you're the founder, there's that kind of side of it, but then they can go and skip all those things the first few years, what they say about startup businesses. So
yeah, so I was it like 9 out of 10 startups fail, right? So yeah, if you did want to go into business then, and you was adamant you want to go into business, then I would still pick, if you was on 50k salary, I'd still pick a 50k net profit business over a startup personally. And that's from someone that I've probably been involved in almost a dozen startups, and I would say 80% of them have failed. for whatever reason, whether it be running out of capital, but usually bad team. That's what usually fails a startup. Because at the end of the day, at the startup, yes, it's a good and it's a fun journey, but you get very optimistic because you feel that this idea, whatever product service you decide, you feel, because you're emotionally in it, you're looking for confirmation bias to why this is the best in the marketplace. And I think that's where, you get a bit jaded on where you're looking, because what happens is you get momentum for the first 6 months because you're building the brand, you get all these ideas, you're making connections, you're seeing people that could be interested in what it is you're selling. And then after 6 months, where you get that initial bit of momentum start to drift off, or 6 to 12 months, then realism comes in. And when realism comes in, it's like, wow, this is actually going to be quite hard to get this off the ground, because then the momentum's gone. And I think that the only difference in from a startup succeeding or failing, unless it's just a pure unicorn, is money and marketing. So one, you can have all the money in the world and you could be terrible at marketing, so it's not going to go anywhere. Or you could be amazing at marketing and have no money. I think there needs to be a bit of a balance there on marketing and money, because I always think when people come to me and ask me ideas, like family members or friends, I say, what do you think of this startup idea? I'm like, look, whatever it's going to cost you to put this idea together, you need 10 times that same amount to take this to market. That's the way I look at it. Now, back in the day when it was like bedroom brands, the clothing brands and all that type of stuff, it's very different then, because there was competition, but there wasn't as much. Now, anyone can start something. They could then, but now I think the belief has come in where people are now starting something, whatever it is, and then they want to monetize it. So yeah, personally, I think that I would still prefer to buy a business, because you already have infrastructure, you already have customers, hopefully you already have staff, you already have processes and systems, and you're already making money. And I know you come to the event in Birmingham last month, and when I went through the slide there where I was talking about, then you can focus on growing, not surviving. Where startups, they got the growth mindset, 'cause they want to grow and they have all these ideas, but every day is like a firefight. They're firefighting every day because they're wearing all the hats. And, I think that, you should focus on trying to outsource as quick as possible. But then I also understand the pains of a startup, where it's very hard to trust someone else to have the same energy for the business as you. No one's going to love the business like yourself when it's your business, so it is hard to outsource to start. So I would still say look at a business to buy personally, but yeah, if anyone is listening who's looking at a startup, for someone that's had a load, I've had some that I've sold and done pretty good, so I've exited some. I've had some that's been okay and I've been bought out, and I've had a lot that's failed. And the ones that have failed are the one, especially the one, it was probably the best idea. I had already everything in place for it to grow nationally. I had all the right people backing me, and team is what let me down. I had the wrong team. So yeah, startup is hard to manage.
Wouldn't you say though that because you had all these startups, it gave you the experience and it gave you the knowledge to then go and acquire businesses, right? It would have helped you rather than if you didn't have that experience, because then you would pick up things from before that you would know about, and you go through that, and then in the to acquire the new business basically.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because the one thing I think people like the new beginner business buyer doesn't have is business acumen, because they could be leaving, say, a job, and then they have to go and try and run a business, right? And so it is hard. That's why I think management structure is really important, so you've got people to lean on. But what I would say is if you're just leaving school, or your early 20s now, I don't think a startup's a bad thing, because like you said, you do learn a lot from it. And yeah, I agree, I learned a lot of things that I shouldn't do again from going through the process and experience. So yeah, I think any exposure to business, whether it's a startup or buying one, I think is important to get, because I think business is a life hack. It's there's no ceiling in business. You can keep growing and growing. You can go as big as you want to go. So the earlier you learn it and the earlier you acquire that business acumen, whichever way you do it, the more chance you have down the line of growing something big.
I suppose even once you acquire a business or a couple of businesses and they have the management structure, you can always learn those things off them as well. Like when you come into the business and you can be working there for a bit, and you can if there's like a couple of managers or whatever, you can probably learn quite a bit of them as well. While or even the previous owner, like I think you mentioned a few times, like the previous owners, they stick around for a bit to help out, just the handover process, and then it goes from there.
I think well, to give you an example, one of the ones we just come back from the States, something that we're looking to buy over there, it's been going back and forth about a year. It's a manufacturing company, right? Now, without the management team, there's no way we would know what we're doing there, right? So we went and spent about a week and a half in the business, and there's a production manager, a quality control manager, there was a procurement manager, there was manager for everything, right? So there'd be no way without that management team that we would just be able to go in there and know how to do everything. So it is important, if you do have management structure, then there's people that you can go and ask and you can lean on. There's the way the production line operates, how would I know that? It would take me ages to know it, right? Same as the procurement. I wouldn't even know who to go and speak to, right? The quality, what are they testing for? There's so many different elements of it. Inventory management for any business is so hard. And having Mike on here, you probably would have talked about how hard it is to say, grow an Amazon business with the inventory and managing the inventory. So all of those types of things, that's knowledge that have been acquired from years and years of experience from the management team. So yeah, it's important to have people there, because if you go and buy something that you're not that knowledgeable on, then, and you're just looking at the growth of it, then yeah, it becomes very hard.
Yeah, I think you mentioned before, I think it was you, you mentioned how you should always, you can't do everything on your own. It's always good to help get other people, because people might have that kind of inside themselves, like an ego, like I can do it all myself, but you need that team. And like you mentioned, there's a management structure and a team. Even in a startup, like a team, they can help you grow and they can give you different ideas. And yeah, so one thing I want to ask about the M&A was that so you mentioned about the startups that you need a lot of money and stuff. So what was to be the finance structure of an M&A deal? I think you went through it last time in the event.
Yeah.
I think I'm a bit late to that, so it
yeah,
just flew over my head.
Yeah, it's okay. So there's multiple different ways you can get one of these deals over the line. Like the typical leverage buyout structure, which most people are looking to do, is when you're going to take some sort of loan to fund part of the deal or all of the deal, right? And that's where the leverage comes from. So now there's a few ways you can do this. So initially, there's been deals that, for instance, one we did, which was an e-com deal last year. It was about 500,000 turnover, just around 100k profit, maybe a bit less. So it wasn't a large deal, but it was someone in the group that had it and asked us to partner with them. So I basically structured the deal in a way that this one was like a no money down deal. So what we did was we used their bounce back loan to fund the closing payment. Now, you can use debt in the company to fund the closing payment, providing there's no change of control clause or any stipulation that allows you not to do it, right? So because there was no change of control clause on the bounce back loan, and we've done this with different types of debt too, we used that as the closing payment. We took over the company and then we deferred the rest of the payments for the business over a period of time. Now, if we need money, like physical cash to inject into the company to fund that closing payment, then another structure would be, so another one we have in legals now, this is the one I showed at the event. There's about 12 million in revenue, a million net, so it's a little bit higher EBITDA wise, but a million net. The closing payment for this deal is £1 million. So of course there isn't enough debt in the company for us to fund that closing payment. So with this one, we've taken on a loan facility, so an invoice facility from the bank to fund the closing payment, and our money that we need to inject into that deal is 100k. So if you think about that, you put 100k in and you're getting basically, with the add backs, pretty much 100k a month profit. Now, of course, there's a deferred element of that as well. So we're deferring the remaining balance over 60 months. So we've got plenty of time. So cash flow is pretty good. And, you need to make sure that you're managing working capital too. So yeah, for that business, 100k in to get something that like I said, can do 7 figures in profit. So that's the one way of doing it. So that's one way, which is leverage buyout. So either you inject something at the start, and like I said, you take on leverage so you can amplify the outcome. And for instance, the deal I just talked about, where you put 100k in and then you get 7 figures of profit, one that has a management structure, it has a very strong customer list, pipeline's really, really good as well. So that's where you benefit from taking on something that size. I think the bigger deals are better to focus on. They're easy to fund. They typically do have the management structure and everything that you're looking for in the business too. Now, another way of doing it, would be, if you want to look at, say, a distressed business. I see some people out there that may have a certain skill set in a sector where they know how to turn a business around. Maybe they are quite savvy tech-wise, and they know that they could integrate something that completely flips the business on, upside down. So now there's a way that you can take them on. You can do, say, the £1 deal, where like I showed us at the event, where you can invoice out. So, the initial company, let's say, and I'll use the example I used then, which is a friend of mine. They was doing about 100K a month in turnover, 30 grand profit, and their business partner, they was in the States, their business partner in the UK was mismanaging everything, taking on too much debt. When he came over to visit, he realized that there was probably about 60 days before running out of cash. So he was ready to just fold the company. It was his last business he had in the UK, so he just wanted to fold it and move on. Now, he told me this a little bit after it was already too far gone, because this company, serviced some of the biggest restaurants on the high street. So it was a really good business, been going for a long time. Now, what we could have done in that situation is we could have put this called invoicing out. We could have put the initial business into insolvency, so give it to an IP, and then we could have transferred the assets, staff, etc., into a new SPV, and then created, like, say, a 90 or 120-day invoice for maybe 50%. Hopefully less of the net asset value on the balance sheet, and then we get to trade that same business for 90 or 120 days debt free. Now, for something that's doing 30k a month profit, not having to pay all those debt obligations, you're talking, say, 90 to 120 grand net profit left over after that 3 to 4 month period before you pay the invoice down. Now, if that invoice was anywhere near, say 50% of what you just earned, then you've got the surplus, but two, you paid that down. Now you have a great business that technically you've acquired for £1. Of course, there's I'd have to go into this a little bit more depth on how that structure works, but that's another way. Another one is, say, consult for equity, where you may have a certain skill set in the sector again, and a company maybe struggling with growth. You see an opportunity, and maybe you tie some equity to performance, put some KPIs in place where you could ask for a retainer too. We've done this where we say, look, we want X for a retainer, plus we want to work into this amount of equity, and then what we can do is help you get ready to sell as well. Now, of course, it depends on the motivation of the seller, but that's another option. But there's literally there's tons of options of how you could really acquire a business. There's stuff where people maybe had a good few years beforehand, and now this year they're struggling a little bit, but they want out, but they want you to value the business on previous years. Then you can put them on performance and make them earn their way out. You can earn your way in. The reason why I love M&A is because it's so creative. There's, to the point where you could pretty much force a deal if you wanted to, which I don't. I'm not advocating forcing deals. Like, if it's not a good deal, then walk away. But my point is, that's how creative you can get. You can move stuff around and do all sorts of quirky things to allow you to, pretty much force it if you wanted to. So there's loads of ways.
Yeah. So have you had quite a few deals that didn't go so well once you've acquired the business and it's not been the best? Have you had something like that?
Yeah. So when I was doing the plumbing stuff, I was pretty much gun-ho on just buying anything. I was like, I seen the sort of profit margin that we was making off. There was a few contracts in the end, but especially the one. So I was like, I don't care who I'm buying. I just want engineers. And, and most of it would be like, well, why don't you just hire them? And if anyone else had a business in construction back in 2020, 2021, they would know how hard it was to get subcontractors to be loyal to you. Right, it was very hard because I was literally jumping on. I remember our general manager was like, "Look, can you start jumping on the recruitment calls?" And I was like, I got no interest in those. I don't really know much of the terminology of what I'm asking. I need them to do. I'm just going to be so straight. I'd end up being like, "Look, we have this contract. This is the jobs that need to be doing, like combi swaps, or sometimes it was like service. I just need you to go and do it." That's basically what I was about to say. But he said, "I'm struggling." I was like, "Why are you struggling?" So I couldn't believe I took one call. I won't say the town, but we interviewed some guy from a town. He jumped on with his hat backwards. Right now, think about like when I used to go when I was young, when I first left school. If I was going to a job interview, I'd turn up as my best self. You know, I'm making sure that I look good. My manners are there, everything, right? This person turned up, hat backwards in a vest, like no care in the world, leaning over on Zoom. And I was like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. And he went, oh, look, I don't want to waste your time, but if I'm going to take this job or consider it, I want this much a day. Of course, they get their digs paid for. I want my digs paid for. I want an allowance every single day. I don't want to work 15 miles from my house. That's the conversation I'm having. So there's a job interview, and this guy's basically telling me what I need. I was like, nah, this has changed since I was a kid. You know, because I don't have to do much hiring, especially in something I don't know. You know what I mean? Other people would do hiring. So when I come off the phone, I said to the general manager, I'm like, yeah, I think you're right. I think we got a situation. And that was the problem in COVID. Your local plumber, electrician, or tradesman as a whole could go and charge double pretty much what you would normally be earning on a day rate down the road, because everything went crazy, right? Everyone went mad for property and, you know, doing their gardens up and house. So that was hard. And then the reason what actually went wrong with that is we actually sold the business. So we did a management buyout to the general manager and actually a friend of mine. But what actually went wrong was integrating all those businesses into one and expecting them all to be fine, because you start putting people in teams. It could be only two people in an area. They may not even be working together. But, you know, I thought, well, look, people work away all the time. And does it really matter who they go with? And it did, you know. So that was hard. We ended up selling it. They ended up losing quite a large contract not long after. So my deferred payments did get affected on that one. But I'm still in dialogue with them now. They've actually just took on a fairly large contract again and asked me if I'd entertain, you know, getting back involved, because everything that I put in place system-wise, they just don't use anymore. And now, in my opinion, that's pretty much what made the business allowed the business to scale, and they just went back to doing it the way they always done it. So yeah, that can happen. You know, there's things that can happen, because that first 90 days is key post acquisition, because they could tell you all the right things. That's why it's important to have a good transition period with the seller, but you also got to be mindful of, they don't want to go to now be the employee. They don't want to really take orders from you. Some don't mind, but most of them, they don't want to take orders. There's a lot of ego involved as well. So, you know, you need to work with them, but also you don't want to damage the culture in the business. Whether the culture is good or bad, you don't want to disturb it, especially for the first 90 days. You want to make changes, but I would say you need to make them fairly slow, unless something needs addressing immediately and you feel that they can take that on board. Because, yeah, people, like, this is the way we've always done it, are not really open-minded to change. But of course, they don't technically have a choice, because you're now the new owner. But I think it's important to put, you know, certain incentive schemes in place then to, you know, try and get them on board.
Yeah, I think Mike was mentioned on the podcast. He wouldn't touch anything for first 90 days, I think it was, or for 6 months. I think, I can't remember which one it was.
Yeah.
So in that time period, what would you be doing for the business then? Putting the process in place, or anything like specifically?
Initially, just watch how the business acts, because you know, you're buying this business based on what you've been told, the financials, all the historical data, and just stuff that you've drilled down in due diligence, right? And based on, you know, if it's been on for 20, 25 years, then it's like, well, they've done something right. They're still here. They're still making money. So for the first 90 days, it's more about identifying where you feel you could add value. Normally, I would say, like I say tech, but anything that is online based, whether it's a CRM or whether it's automation, I'd be surprised if most of the businesses have any of it. Some do, but most don't. So I'd be initially looking at how I can make this more efficient as a business. Then I'd be looking at, one, the revenue per employee, because, you know, that's another thing too, right? So again, that people that integrate tech usually have, you know, a much larger revenue per employee than people that don't. So of course, it's tech's deflationary, so you get to suck out some of the labor force because it gets replaced by automation or tech. So that's something I'll be looking at, as the revenue per employee when we go in there, and then what that looks like after we would have integrated our systems. But also, you know, to make this change, what do we need to do? You know, is anyone going to get hurt emotionally? Not that you have to care, because you do have to be ruthless in business, but also if you hurt one person emotionally because you made a huge change, is that a knock-on domino effect to everybody else? So you do have to be really considerate and, there's quite a lot of concerns around making changes, but for the first 90 days really is watching the process of how it operates now and what you can see could be different, because most people are in their business every day. It's hard to see problems and where you should make changes when you're in the business, and most business owners are.
Yeah. So going into a deal or a structure, would you ever say people can go, or people probably do, like go into as like a team kind of thing, like a couple of people or 3 or 4 people can go into acquiring a business? Would that be something that can work? Because I was just thinking about it, like you mentioned the teams, and if you have like, let's say you build a team just for the M&As, like and you have like someone that does certain things, and you do like the main stuff, and then someone does one side of it, someone on one side of it, and you can all like 3, 4 of you just go acquire a business kind of thing. Would that something that works, or would you recommend just being like a sole person going into acquiring a business?
No, I think it works, definitely.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, our team is technically, there's more people, but the actual, say, partners in the deals are 3 of us. So, Mike's very back-end systems orientated. I'm more like deal architecture, get a deal done, and structure, and probably marketing and ideas for Mike to integrate the systems. And then Craig is very operations based, very analytical, and Craig's currently managing a group of businesses that does about 150 million a year, so he's very high level in the way he thinks. So it really works for us. What I would say is, if you are going to go and partner with someone on a deal, try and find someone who has a different skill set. If you both got the exact same skill set, then you're probably going to end up arguing at some point. It all seems great at the start, it always does, but I would probably find someone that maybe completely different skill set to you, that brings something different to the business. But I think that would help. When you're in business is lonely, M&A is lonely. So I think that if you have someone there with you that is actually bringing something to the table, then I think that helps massively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So talking about the event that we went to, that we had, where you was there, Aaron and Stephen. So that was part of your 5amClub, right? That was a 5am event, right? Yeah, it was. I saw the signs around. Yeah. So why did you start the 5amClub?
Wow, I've been asked this so many times, right? So it was an accident. It was in COVID, lockdown. I was just bored in the house. I remember me and your brother was doing like lives every week on Facebook, because people were just stuck in the house. So I said to a few people, and I think your brother would have jumped on the first call. It was like, look, let's see how we can help each other in business. We just jump on 5 a.m. Let's get committed at a time when no one wants to wake up. We don't have to wake up at this time because the whole country can't leave their house. Let's wake up at an uncomfortable time. We all woke up. After a few weeks, it just pretty much become unsustainable to just have free-flowing conversation. So I remember asking one of the guys in the group, which was Ian, I said, do you want to do a presentation? Because he did a lot of stuff on neuro-linguistic programming. So I said, just do a presentation on NLP, and then we'll go from there. Then it kind of just went from there, where other people would talk about something and someone else would, and it just, an accident turned into like a really good network of people. I've seen people, collaborate business-wise, buy deals off each other, like property deals, gain customers from there, even to the point where I think your brother bought a car off that M4 off Dan Yeoman's that he met in the 5amClub. So to the point where, like, I think that it just became a really cool, tight network of people that everyone wants to help each other and see each other grow. So yeah, it was. I had no intention of doing it and it being what it is, but sometimes accidents are usually the best things.
Yeah, I mean, it's come a long way now, and it's like a big community. And was that something you said it started as an accident, but going through it, did you ever envision it to be like sort of community or like networking? And obviously connecting people, which is very important, right? And it's quite similar to what I'm doing in the podcast. I want to connect people, connect myself to other people, and then, grow with the listeners and stuff like that. So it's kind of a similar thing.
Yeah, I think that as it when I actually seen it progress, then I started to think, wow, this is like a really cool network of people. Met a lot of good people, and I think that it was, I'm not sure if it was I think it's the end of 2020 or summer 2020. I think after the first lockdown, we did a small event in Varanasi in Birmingham. Is it Varanasi? I think it's called, the restaurant. Yeah,
Varanasi,
yeah. So we did an event there with Zoom Properties. We did collaboration, and when I seen how many people turned up, because there's a limit of how many people you could have in a room because it was COVID, and the amount of people that came, I was like, wow, this has actually got some pull. I didn't realize how People was on people just watch online, you just don't know. And then from there we just started to, I thought, right, I'm gonna put a bit more time into this. People are getting a lot from it. I was getting a lot from it. I was really enjoying meeting people and connecting with people, and I loved it. So I thought from there I focused on it a little bit more, took some more time out of what I was doing to spend on it as well, and I thought I'd start building a team. And then from the back of that, then the 5D program happened, which was it's like a mastermind. Again, was something that it was something I thought I would do down the line, and it was just again from people probably asking, saying, "Do you coach? Will you help me on this?" And in the end, my friend actually over in Dubai was like, "Why don't you just start a mastermind?" He's like, "You're going to take up too much time." We had a few one-to-ones at the time, but nothing huge. And I was like, I don't know if I can commit to it at the moment. And then we trialed it, and I thought, if I'm going to do this, I've been involved in lots of like courses and masterminds like as I was coming up. I spent a lot of money on education, and I just thought, if I'm going to do this, I want to build a framework that is based on results that works. Because I've done a lot of stuff where I pay people, quite a substantial amount of money, and I haven't really got what I wanted out of it. And the customer aftercare has always been terrible. So I thought I want to find something that, one, is results driven, so people know they're getting something out of it, and two, if they need something, they've got a soundboard that's always there. And I think that that's what we've created. And you probably know quite a few people from the group that doing deals, then pretty much changed their life on some of these deals. So I want to keep that going. And also we've added a few other things now where we do these quarterly meetups. Some are in the UK, but we've got one in June that we're taking a private jet to Nice. So I also want to put stuff together where it's like people can experience bucket list type experiences from this group. So yes, everyone's really helpful and helps each other in the group. It's a really tight network. They learn a lot. They get to make life-changing decisions, but also get to experience things that they probably wouldn't tend to experience. Not that they wouldn't, but things that not anyone can just jump on and just do. So yeah, that's been something now that a lot of my focus is on as well, because one, I get offered to partner on deals with some of these people. Two, I get to help them, one, structure the deals, close the deals, finance the deals. And yeah, I just really enjoy it now. I didn't think it was going to happen at this age. I thought I was going to do it when I was sort of at retirement, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess that helps you as well. Like, when they come to you with the deals and stuff, that it might be a sector that you've never done before. You might understand a bit more from these other ones, so it's a win-win situation, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And in terms of the stuff that you're doing as well, like the mentioned the private jet and the events, like it's like you said, like being creative, right? You can do whatever you want. Like there's so many ideas that you could push out there and just do any of them. So yeah, I mean, you're saying that you would do it eventually. So without the 5am club, you wouldn't. That's what it would be like, right? If because of the 5am club was able to enable you to do it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I thought, right, down the line when I've hit certain goals that I wanted to hit, then I wanted to do coaching. From when I was 16 years old, I wanted to be a life coach. I was like, I used to coach kids basketball teams and stuff like that, and I used to really enjoy, especially some of the naughty kids, like try and motivate them and be like, look, you don't have to be like this. You got talent. And I used to love that, right? I've always been one to like helping. So I thought down the line, I'd love to do it, but it was always something I just put far out into sort of the sunset and was like, one day I'll do it. But yeah, the 5am club just fast forwarded it.
Yeah, that kind of like built up your experience though as well, working on the 5am club, speaking, doing events. That's like you're running all the things, and then you're speaking to these people, and you're basically coaching them, right? And these events. So that's going to build up your experience to the point where you start actually being a mentor.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point actually, because there is a lot of mentors and coaches out there now. I think pretty much everyone is like, I could help, and everyone does have value to give back. I think everyone has experienced certain things that others haven't. So you can give back, but I think that how to be a coach or mentor is very different to just being one. And I think that some people may have bad experiences with some coaches or mentors because the mentor or coach doesn't actually know how to deliver the information the way that relates to the mentee. And that was something I think is really important to learn is people, building rapport, understanding how people's personalities are, how what their character is like. I think that that's important. So I think that when you're if you want to be a coach or mentor, I think it's important to think about, how you're going to put this information across to people and how they take it in.
And I think it's like you mentioned as well, you're growing up, when you're 16 years old, you want to be a coach. It's more about wanting to give the value to the people rather than just being a mentor for the sake of being a mentor, and I want to be a mentor, you know what I mean?
Yeah, what you just said, sorry to cut you off, I have to address this, right, is exactly what you just said, right? So if you're a coach or mentor, you have to give everything to the person that's paying you. I hate it when people hold stuff back. It's like, if someone's paying you for your information and your time, anything they ask you, you have to give them all of it. You can't just keep thinking about upselling them on something else. That's what really frustrates me in this coaching sort of game. Is like, whatever someone pays, whatever you decide to charge for, what they've paid for, you need to give it them. You can't hold back.
Yeah. I guess that's with a lot of, like, in business as well. Like, when you thinking about just the money rather than providing the value, then that's where you're, like, you deviate from the thing, where if you're focusing on the value of it, then the money will just come anyway. Like, you don't need to worry about it. But yeah, in terms of I think there's obviously you do mentoring, so you get that feeling when you help someone. You get that feeling. It's like when I used to go to networking events. They always say, like, I never really like networking events. I still don't like it, but I still go. So it's like when I go to these networking events, I used to think, oh yeah, people are just going to ask me questions and stuff like that, and I'm going to go there. I don't want to ask questions. And some people might go there with the mindset that, okay, what am I going to learn? Like, information can I get from people? But when you go with that, you're not satisfied. Like, no matter what, you can try to get as much information out of different people and ask, like, how do you do this? How do you do that? But when you go there as a person and someone asks you and you give them value, that's a different feeling. That's a completely different feeling. And once I felt that like changed my mind on it, and I was like, wow, now I want to go to networking events. I still don't like them, but I thought, let me go to it, let me not expect anything from anyone. I'll ask a few questions, but let me go there and just tell people about what I do, what I can provide, and just let them know on that. Because now obviously you're working in the business and now the podcast as well, gain more experiences, and I can advise people, and people come ask me, and that just gives me a buzz after it. It's like a high, and that makes a huge difference. And I can see why someone would want to do mentoring and coaching without thinking about the money. Like, you doing the 5am Club, hosting the events, you have to obviously charge for events and stuff, but the actual speaking and stuff, you weren't charging in terms of that. Because I went to one in Cardiff.
Yeah, Cardiff. Yeah.
Cardiff, was it 2 in Cardiff?
Yeah, there was 2. You come to the both.
I think I came to both of them. Yeah, they're both modelled up. I can't remember which one was which. But so like went to the event, and you're just providing the value. There's the speakers there, and that's giving the experience, like I said,
Yeah, so. Definitely. I think that, especially the events, right? The events, I think, one, I really enjoy them. And 2, I think that the whole sort of making money in events has kind of changed. So I think that years ago, people would have like events businesses, and people still do. But for instance, at those events, we don't run the events that essentially make money, because they don't really make money. If all of a sudden we, like, say we're £500 up or something on the event, I'll just go and get another cameraman. Like you've seen at the one in Birmingham, there was cameramen treading over each other because there were so many there. Because I think it's more about the experience, capturing that experience, meeting new people, and providing value. Like when you actually think paying, 50 or 60, 70 pounds or whatever it is to get into an event and learn the information that you learn and the people that you meet, that's like invaluable in my opinion. Because some of those, it's like even some of the stuff that I covered, I won't speak for like Aaron and Steve, because I know they covered some really good stuff too, but the stuff I covered, some of that stuff that I cover, I know people that are charging like 5 figures to get into their mastermind for that same information. So so you say technically, like, I'm paying 50 quid to save 10 grand or whatever, it all depends. But some of that information there, people are paying stupid money to go and get that information. Some of the stuff that Aaron covers, some of the stuff that Steve covered, these are things that people are paying stupid money for. And if you can go and pay 50 to 100 quid or whatever it is to get into these events, and you can get that same information or even some of it, then for me is a win-win for everyone. Yeah.
So as you mentioned, you're providing more value, and so it's about looking in the right places. It's about looking where you can find these kind of people, and there's usually telltale signs of what is going to be good value and what isn't going to be good value.
Yeah, definitely. I think that you do have to be careful which events you go to. I used to go to loads of networking events, and like you said, you're not there to just get value from other people. Like you said, as soon as you go to them and think, how can I give value, then it does change. But I do still feel that people need to be careful on what events they go to.
Yeah, I think the 5D events are, they're getting better as well. Last time you had a goodie bag as well.
Yeah,
Quite a few things in there, so that was a nice touch.
Yeah, definitely.
And it was good that you had a collaboration with Aaron and Steve, and there was something different. It was like all the different people that follow Steve and follow Aaron and then follow you, know about you. They all come together, and it's like different. You know what I mean? It was quite cool as the collaborations. It's something different, and it's your creative side as well, right?
Yeah.
The creativity comes through, and as you said, the cameraman and the capturing the content, which I think is really important. Like the more content you capture, there's no like it's just better. Like the more you capture, and it had like the Instagram story reel thing. I think you had like a thing that would cause engagement, like someone that never come to the event or didn't see it, know about it, they'll see on these people's stories, and it's like getting the engagement and the marketing, right? That's what you said, marketing. Definitely. How important is your marketing, like your brand, like you got your hoodie on?
I'm here, I'm branded up. Yeah, I think it's really important. And another thing is, so about 6 years ago, I had my own clothing brand. It's still going now, but I just sold my share in it. And the reason why we started it was I was like, why am I going to keep wearing other people's clothes? Like, you got your own brand on now, right? It makes sense, right? So if you're out and about, then you're better off wearing your own brand, because that's the thing that you're pushing than somebody else's. But I think branding is so important. Marketing is so important, because, if there's no marketing in the business, then nobody knows about your brand. If no one knows about your brand, you're not going to get no sales. If you don't make no sales, you can't hire no staff. If you don't hire no staff, you can't outsource anything. If you don't make any sales at all, you don't need anyone. So it's like, realistically, when you peel it all the way back to marketing, it's realistically probably the most important part of any business.
Yeah, definitely agree, man. Like my hoodie, I wear it to the gym and stuff, and if someone sees it, you never know, they might see, like, what's that? Let me Google it. They might think it's a clothing brand. When they go on it, they'll find a podcast and then they'll watch it. So
definitely,
it's all good. So yeah, that was the marketing side of it in the event that you had. The cameraman and stuff. But obviously, your wife, she always helps in the events. She's always helping around. She's basically running the events for you, right? How important has that been for you?
Massive, because the first one that you came to in Cardiff, that was our first event. Yeah,
I thought you had done a few before that. It didn't seem like it was the first event.
Yeah, so like it was our official sort of like seminar style event, and that's the first time she really got involved on the event side, and it helped like a lot. Like, she pulled a lot of stuff together, liaised with like the venue and the events team, and all the little things that, like the name tags and where everyone was sitting, the bottles of water with the logos on, all of it she did. And since then it's kind of just been her thing, and she's pulled all of them together. Like, we've done 2 in Birmingham, 2 in Cardiff, I think 1 or 2 in London, we did Dubai, like we probably somewhere else, I can't even remember, but every one she's pulled together, even the Dubai one. She basically turned up. So I was over there, I think, for like about maybe a month before she came because of the kids, and your brother, I think, actually I was, and then she came over like 2 days before, and everything was already done because of so it's been massive, like, without her on the team, especially for most of the 5am Club, she pretty much runs all the back end of the 5am Club, but especially for the events, like they'd be a car crash if I did them, I think.
Was it something initially that she wanted to get involved in? She told you, like, I want to get involved in it?
So that's a good question, because when we first got together, she was a manager in JD, so she always said she wants to go into events management. So it was something that she always wanted to do, and then it kind of just fell into place. So she mentioned about getting, I think it was the tags. She was like the gold VIP cards. She's like, I can get these. I'll go and get these. And then it went from them to, I think the name, what they called, the things that go around your neck. I forgot what they called. Lanyards, that's it. And then it was them. Then it was T-shirts. And then she started to go and source different things. And I'm like, look, just talk to the venue. And then she just took over from there.
Yeah, it's creativity, right? And like you said, it fell in place. So if you want to do management, that's literally perfect for her. Like, she got you, and then the events and stuff. Like, she can just do it without, going to certain places and trying to manage events. Trying to get into the different rooms with people. But you're right there, so
definitely.
It worked for her, and she's able to showcase her skills on it. And I can see like the events have come so far, and they've been doing really well. Yeah. So what would in terms of that as well, like that allowed you to then not focus on that side of it, getting the venues, the what's it like, where people are seated. I don't know what it's called, whatever that's called.
Yeah,
You know, the management of the event, but then you can focus on your speaking and your keynote, and then the speakers as well, getting them organized, and like provides you clarity in your head rather than worry about anything. Like clears your mind, and you're just focused. And it's how has that allowed you to benefit?
massively, because like you said, on that first event you came to in Cardiff, I remember that event, even though she was involved and she did a lot of that event, when it come to actually the speakers, obviously I had to arrange the speakers, I had to host it, plus I had my own stuff I was talking about. That was like quite hard for me to think about. Like, I have to introduce everyone, and for those that do events, some people are just naturally really good at that stuff. Like Aaron Branch is great at hosting, talking. I know Lewis Crompton's really good. There's some really good people out there that are really good at that. But for me, I like to just turn up and just do my presentation, and then I don't have to focus on nothing else. That's what I like to do. And then when we started introducing other people as the host, plus Shara did all the back end, that just made everything so much easier for me. I could just literally focus on what I'm talking about and make sure that's as best as it can possibly be.
Okay, so you're more focused on just your segment and your what you're talking about, like M&A and 5am and stuff like that, rather than just being a host. And I know what you mean, like Aaron and Lewis, they're kind of funny guys as well.
They're very
They
funny.
bring the charisma and, like, you know, not to say you ain't got charisma, but, you know, because I think at the first event you did like kind of host it, like you did bring up the speakers and stuff from what I remember. Because as I said, I'm getting confused between the two. But yeah, so so as you said, she's helped you a lot. What would you say in terms of the benefit of having someone like that? I know we've already like covered it, because in entrepreneurship, this is like a cliche thing. Entrepreneurship, they always find it hard to find someone. And, you know, did you ever think at the start that it would grow into something like that, or like, you know, like you said, some of the stuff like fell in place and it just helped you? Because sometimes you might have a think, or you might both be entrepreneurs, you might have different visions and different goals, and they might never ever come together, but you can still like work together in terms of, like, you know, even like now you've come here and you're doing your event, looking for an event venue. I don't know if I can mention that.
It's cool.
But you know, you brought her with you and the kids and everything. How's that being managed, and how, you know, do you take on like the difficulties and stuff?
Yeah, we have disagreements in like business decisions and stuff, but I honestly think in like entrepreneurship, if you can find a partner that is on board with your Visionation, if they're on board with your vision, it's like a life hack, I think, personally, because like she's always been like involved in previous ventures. Like she's always got involved. Like when we had like a healthy food company years ago, where we had like locations in shopping centers plus meal prep, and because of her experience from managing in retail, she helped massively when it comes to training and, you know, managing that side of stuff too. So I think that she's always slightly been involved, but now she's like really rooted into the business. And I think that is like a life hack. If you can find someone that, you know, you're both on the same page, they support what you do and you support what they do, yeah, I think it's literally like a complete life hack.
So like you mentioned, the vision, it's like for yourself as well, right? Any entrepreneur, if you got some sort of vision that you're working towards, and your goal, like actual goal, like ultimate goal, not money oriented, but like something that you want to do, like, you know, helping people or mentoring and stuff like that, that vision is what drives you. And like, you might go like different ways, and you might get strayed, and, you know, you might get sidetracked and stuff like that, but that vision is what will set you on that path and continue to help you. But then if you, like you mentioned, if you have someone that supports you on that, even if when you have the disagreements and you have like arguments, quarrels, whatever it is, you know, but that vision is what is going to get you through, and it's going to send you to the right path and keep you going, essentially. Because if you didn't have that vision, and if you didn't agree on the visions and you didn't align on that, then what's to say the arguments won't break you? But because you have the vision, it's like something strong.
Yeah, it's helped a lot, you know, because I do a lot of traveling, and, you know, obviously we've got 3 children, so not only is she like a super mum because she looks after the children, but then she's also keeping the back end of like the 5amClub and all that type of stuff intact as well. So yeah, I think that to me, it's been like a hack, you know, whereas a lot of the stuff I used to have to be focused on so many different things, to the point where at one point I was like, I can't give up this 5amClub because it means a lot to people and people get a lot from it. But I was so busy in other things. I was like, how am I going to keep doing this? And like without her, maybe it would have been different, you know, because like I said, I love it. I know other people love it, but I had so many different things going on and ventures. It was hard to keep up with it. But yeah, she's pulled everything together. So yeah,
shout out to her, man.
yeah, shout out to Shara.
So, one last question for you: where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Probably in a different country. I didn't want to come back to the UK as it was, but circumstances changed. Something happened in my family, so probably not in the UK. And just keep doing what I'm doing now. I think that, you know, there's something that I heard. Any basketball fans out there, there's a guy called Damian Lillard, and he said something on a video, and this will relate to anyone in anything they're doing. And he said that you shouldn't have to coach effort, right? We don't have the luxury to not put effort in, because sometimes effort is the only thing that is the difference between you and somebody else. So you shouldn't have to coach effort. So, and the reason, my point by saying now is, wherever I'm doing in 5 years, I'm going to continually put effort in, and I keep showing up on the days I don't want to show up. So realistically, all my goals should be a lot closer. Some should be ticked off, but yeah, in 5 years, every year, as long as you're doing better than you did the year before, then you're moving in the right direction. So I'll just go wherever the world takes me.
Yeah, I suppose it's like after, like, let's say 5 years, then you're gonna have another set of goals, and like you said, every year is improving. I don't know if you've seen that clip recently you mentioned about basketball. Giannis.
Amazing.
You seen that clip where he asked him, he's like, so the Bucks they got knocked out, I think, by Miami Heat, and he said, you know, do you see yourself as a failure this season? You've seen the clip, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it's quite important. Like, you know, it's quite a thing where he mentions Michael Jordan. He's like 15 years and 6 years he won the championship, and 9 years were their failure. No, they weren't.
Yeah.
Because it's like working towards something, right? And it's like he mentioned about his thing as well. Like, you got a promotion, no, you didn't. Yeah. So it's quite, you know, in sports, it's quite one of those things where if you don't win, you know, you're a loser. But it's not really. It's always the progression, and it's the same as business. Like, it's winning is a bit different, but it's a progression, and as long as you're improving constantly, year after year, doing something different, you know, getting not just stagnating. So that's really important, like I mentioned in the clip. So,
and also there's value in failure. People forget that there's value in failure. So it's okay to fail. Like, people have this thing where it's like, I'm really competitive, so I always want to win, regardless of what it is, right? But if you lose, there is value in it, because if you fail in whatever it is, then you just learned a lesson of not the way not to do it. Or, you know, you need to make changes. Maybe you weren't good enough at the time, so you have to improve. And that's what Giannis said. And I think that when he said about that, them other 9 seasons that Michael Jordan didn't win, are they all failures? Well, if you want to put it down from winning to losing, yeah, he lost those seasons. But did he fail in the overall goal? No. The overall goal was to win championships. So you're going to focus on all the negative years, or you're going to focus on the positive years. Yeah. And that's the thing. I think it was really important what he said there. And I think that a lot of people should take that on board. If you haven't seen it, you should go and watch it, because it really hits home, I think, on the days that you're like, it's not going right for me today. But it will one day. You keep putting effort in, you keep working towards it, and you're going to have good days. It is what it is.
Yeah, even like those 9 years that he failed, like I think he had like 2 or 3 seasons where before he won the championship, because he came to Chicago Bulls, he was they weren't that great, and it was those 3 years. So obviously those 3 years of losing and the adversity is what pushed him to go and do a three-peat, and, you know, etc. So that's quite important. And I think I was watching a podcast with Alex Hormozy and Stephen Bartlett, and he mentions, you know, if you have this one person, ideal person that you want to be successful, and you want them to be successful and have the best life, would you give them an easy life, or give them a life that has struggles and hardship and adversity? Obviously, you give them the one with the struggles, because that will grow them as a person, and it's the winning is the good bit, but then that behind is what makes you a person.
Show true character in failure. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But I got a question for you before we wrap this up. Okay. Where do you want to be in 5 years?
Where do I want to be in 5 years? Where do I want to be in 5 years? Have the freedom, like you mentioned. I have freedom. Not here. Not in this country. I want to go somewhere else. I think I've discussed it a lot on my podcast, you know, about the culture and the vibe around the UK. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm an immigrant, come here. There's a lot of opportunity in this country and that we can't take for granted. There's a lot of business opportunity. But then it gets to a point where if you've reached that freedom, I don't think there's much more else here. There's other countries that you can go to, you know, and I think it's quite a big thing as well, like these days, in going to, like, less developed countries, because the business opportunity there is quite good as well. So going from here, once you've established that freedom, then you can maybe go abroad. So that's one thing that I wanna look at. But I'm still here for now, you know, in the journey, in the process. We'll see where the podcast goes. I've got quite a few things with the podcast. It's more than just the podcast, but it will take 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years, maybe however long it takes. But the consistency is the key. Keep at it and keep it going, and you know, hopefully more things to come, and you know, there'll be a part 2 as well in 5 years time.
Definitely, and
maybe a part 10 in 5 years time.
Yeah, maybe. And okay, one more. If you could pick one guest out of the whole world to have on your podcast, who would it be?
Now, today?
Yeah.
I thought about this. One guest.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, man, because I got a few people. I've got a few people in mind.
Yeah.
I'd have to say Andrew Tate.
I'd have to say
Andrew Tate. Just because all the eyes on him right now as well, and I think people mentioned that the first podcast he does when he comes out, it's gonna be crazy, man.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, I'd want to know. Obviously, in all his podcasts he's covered, he's talked about a lot of good things, but I'd want to know specifically, like, he's gone to prison and stuff, and he's recently converted to Islam as well. Speak to him about that. That's what I was speaking to him about. So it's quite interesting. I don't know if you've seen his podcast with Patrick Bet-David. It's like 5 hours long.
Yeah, it was long. I didn't watch it all, but it was. I watched a lot of the clips.
Yeah, it's really good. But honourable mentions I can give: Stephen Bartlett, I'd have on.
Yeah.
Alex Mosey, Ben Francis, those kind of people.
Yeah.
They're really good.
You need to get Ben on you. He's a Birmingham native, right?
Yeah, and me and him went to the same university. If you're watching this,
Ben, you need to be on the podcast.
Get on the podcast, man. But yeah,
cool.
I appreciate your time coming down today. You know, hope you have enjoyed the rest of your day here. You know, enjoy the views. Maybe hit the gym.
No, we'll see.
But yeah, thank you for coming down again. Appreciate it. For the listeners, we'll leave these information in the description below if you're listening on YouTube or on Spotify. Check out his YouTube channel as well. He's posting quite a few things on YouTube. Check out his Instagram. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.